Good afternoon. I'm California State Treasurer Fiona Ma, and I would like to welcome you to this CalABLE webinar. As State Treasurer, I believe that CalABLE is an excellent financial tool for Californians with disabilities. For the first time, eligible individuals on means-tested benefit programs can save up to $100,000 without having their benefits impacted. CalABLE is a game changer, providing people with disabilities a low-cost, tax-advantaged way to save and invest for a better financial future. I am committed to promoting this program and for doing all that I can to continue to help people with disabilities strengthen their financial position to achieve a better life experience. Thank you for joining us today and for your continued support of the CalABLE program. I will turn things over to the CalABLE team to begin today's webinar.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining. My name is Thomas Martin. I'm the Executive Director for CalABLE. I have brown hair, brown eyes, a light brown sweater, and a gray shirt, and I'm excited to be here. So thank you so much for joining us. I know there is a lot of interest in both CalABLE and in special needs trusts. They're two very big topics for people with disabilities, for families trying to support loved ones, I appreciate that folks are joining in to be able to learn more about both of them. So a bit about me. I have autism, and so do both of my kids. All three of us have CalABLE accounts, and I have a special needs trust in place for my kids. Because of how important that is for future planning for when they're older. There are important differences between CalABLE and special needs trusts that we're going to be able to get to today. But one thing to note is that while there are some differences, they actually work very well together, especially when it comes to things like protecting SSI eligibility. Both CalABLE and special needs trusts, both of them are excellent ways to support people with disabilities, support loved ones with disabilities, and also to help them be able to support themselves as well, and make decisions for themselves with support or structure. So with this webinar, we'll be walking through first how CalABLE works. Then we'll talk a bit about we'll have a presenter on special needs trusts, and then we'll have a conversation. We'll be answering questions. As Madeline mentioned, we'll be answering questions in the chat. We'll also be answering questions live on the air, and we will get to as many as we can. We do expect a lot of questions, so it may take a bit to get through them, and there may be some that we won't get through. Just because of timing. So apologies in advance, but we will get through as many as we can, and at the end we'll talk about how you can ask additional questions as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, we have a couple of polls to better get to know you. So Madeline.
Yes, so we have questions for you. So our first question, basically just to see who's on. So are you an account owner? Are you an authorized legal representative? This could be a parent, a grandparent, sibling who's running the CalABLE account for somebody else. Are you a state employee or a service provider who is maybe on to learn some information for your clients? Are you a potential CalABLE participant and you're on this webinar to, find out what's so great about CalABLE? So please answer this poll. We'll give you just a few more seconds. Okay, I am ending the poll and sharing the results. So we do have a lot of authorized legal representatives and parents on today. 69% of our attendees today are authorized legal representatives. We also have 9% are account owners, so very exciting. And then we do have 3% are state employees, 9% are service providers. We have 4%, so 12 of you are potential CalABLE participants, So hopefully after this webinar, you'll take the next step and open your CalABLE account. And then 6% are other. So if you're in that other category, maybe at the end of the webinar, you can put in the survey, maybe who you are. Okay, and then we do have another poll here, so I'll launch it. So we want to know, have you attended a CalABLE webinar before? Really simple, yes or no. And we'll give everyone just a few seconds to fill this out. Okay, you all filled that out very quickly, so I'll share the results. So we have 55% of attendees on today have attended a CalABLE webinar before, and 45% haven't. So welcome to our webinars. We put these on monthly, so hopefully we will see you again. Okay, now back to you, Thomas.
Okay, great. Yes, hopefully we'll see you again. And for those who don't have accounts, you will have an account when we see you again. So before we get too much further, let's talk a little bit about what CalABLE is, how it works, how eligibility works, those basic things, so we all understand what we're talking about. So so if you can go to the next slide. So what is CalABLE? So CalABLE is a tax advantage savings and investment program. It's for people with disabilities, and it's designed to provide them with greater financial independence, greater financial flexibility, greater financial security. That's the mission. So it is for people with disabilities. So ABLE itself has been the first federal ABLE law was signed in 2014. So we're actually right around now. We're at the 10th anniversary of ABLE as an idea. And this is all protected in federal law, and CalABLE is California's implementation of that federal law. So what's great about CalABLE, which we'll get into in a bit, is that you can save money, and you can do it without you can save money, you can save it tax free, and you can do it without jeopardizing eligibility for benefits like SSI. But we'll get into that a bit more in a bit. So let's talk about eligibility. So who is eligible for CalABLE? The first thing to keep in mind that you have to have a disability that starts before the age of 26 as of today. The actual age doesn't matter as long as the disability started before age 26. How old the person is doesn't matter. So I'm over 26. I can still have a CalABLE account though, because my disability starts at birth, because that's the only age that actually matters. Now, one thing to note is that this age of onset is going to increase to the age of 46 at the beginning of 2026. So today it's disability before the age of 26. In 2026, it's going to be a disability before the age of 46. So what about the disability itself? So in order for it to be an eligible disability, the disability has to meet one of two criteria. So one, it needs to be, the person would need to be eligible for SSI or SSDI. So that's supplemental security income or Social Security disability insurance. These are both run by the Social Security Administration. So if the recipient is eligible for either SSI or SSDI and the disability started before the age of 26, then that's easy. And then you already know that that person's eligible. However, you don't have to receive benefits to be eligible. So I have a CalABLE account. I don't receive SSI or SSDI, but I can still have a CalABLE account because I can self-certify. So if your disability is listed by the Social Security Administration on the list of compassionate allowances or on their Blue Book listing of impairments, then you'll know that you're eligible. So for me, I can look in the Blue Book, the Social Security Administration's Blue Book, and I can see that autism is clearly stated in that Blue Book. And links to this information are on our website. Now you may be asked, so we recommend, we don't require, but we recommend getting a signed letter from a physician if you are self-certifying. This isn't our requirement. We don't need or want a copy of it. We are recommending it though because there are tax benefits to this. We recommend it as good bookkeeping to have a letter on hand in case you were ever asked for it by, for example, IRS. Okay, next slide, please. So what do you need to know to open an account? A couple of quick things to go over. First of all, a person can only have one ABLE account. So if I have a CalABLE account in California, I can't get an ABLE account in, Arizona or some other state. I can only have one ABLE account total. Additionally, the person with the disability is always the account owner and the beneficiary. And so the account is for them. The money is theirs. It is for them. So I have accounts for both of my kids. Meaning both of my kids are CalABLE account owners. And while I run the account for them, it is ultimately their funds, and the account needs to be used for their benefit, which we'll get into in a bit. Additionally, the account, it can be opened by the person with the disability. Again, I open my own account, or by an authorized legal representative, which in the case of my kids, I am their authorized legal representative. So let's talk about what that means. So the authorized legal representative is our technical term. I know it's a little bit wordy. The thing to keep in mind is that what this means is this is the person who has decision-making authority. So on the screen here, you can see the list of examples of who can be an authorized representative, going in order: a legal guardian or conservator, a spouse, a parent, a sibling, grandparent, someone with power of attorney, a representative payee appointed by the Social Security Administration, or anyone requested by the account owner. So in my case, as I mentioned, parent is an example. In my case, I'm the authorized representative for both of my kids. I am their parent. I'm clearly on the list. There isn't anything that needs to be provided to CalABLE. Just when you open the account, you need to state that that you meet this criteria, right? So when I opened the account, I stated that I clicked that I'm a parent, and I could continue on and open the account in their name. So this is self-certification. We don't need like a proof of something. It's self-certification. Okay. Now, I mentioned earlier about protecting benefits. So let's talk a little bit about what that means. So for those who don't know, SSI, supplemental security income, comes from the Social Security Administration, comes from the federal government, and it is the primary and often only source of income for millions of people with disabilities. So in order to receive SSI, there's a handful of criteria you have to meet. One of the criteria, however, is that you can't have more than $2,000 to your name. So meaning that if I were an SSI recipient and I had more than $2,000 in a bank account, I would risk getting my SSI benefits cut. And so that's hugely limiting. And I'm sure a lot of the people who are here to learn more about CalABLE and special needs trusts are aware of this, but it is so limiting to try to maintain eligibility for SSI and have any money in your name. With $2,000, you can't really do anything. That's the reality. You can't, let alone, you can't, not only can you not buy a house, you couldn't really get an apartment with $2,000. You can't get a car, you can't really pay for any major expenses if all you have is $2,000 to your name. And so, for me as a parent, saving for my kids, I want to make sure that they can be as independent as they can be. When they're adults, that's going to mean that has to mean being able to have more than $2,000. If they can't have more than $2,000, they can't live alone or be as independent as they can be. And that's where CalABLE comes in. So with CalABLE, someone can receive SSI and go past the $2,000 limit. So with CalABLE, you can have up to $100,000 and still be eligible for SSI. And so that's a life-changing thing. That's a game changer for someone with disabilities. If you can save $100,000, you can save for major expenses. We'll talk about some of those major expenses later, but we've had account holders who've saved for a house, saved for apartments, saved for wheelchair accessible vehicles, those sorts of things. That's what you can do if you can have more than $2,000. And that's what makes CalABLE so beneficial for someone receiving benefits. So on that note, let's talk about what you can contribute. So like I mentioned, you can save up to $100,000 and maintain SSI benefits. Now, each year, though, there is a contribution cap. So for 2024, you can contribute up to $18,000, and that's the 2024 calendar year. Beginning next year, it resets, and you can contribute up to $19,000. So regardless of how much you contribute between now and the end of the year, that number goes back to zero. You can contribute an additional $19,000 during 2025. Again, you can have $100,000 total and maintain SSI each year. You can save this year, you can save $18,000. Next year, you'll be able to save $19,000 within a given year. Total, if SSI is not a factor, you could save up to $529,000 total in CalABLE accounts. If you try to contribute more than any of these, more than the annual limit or more than $529,000 cap, we will automatically reject that contribution. Okay. Now, I mentioned before that the account is for the person with a disability, right? And so they are the beneficiary of the account. So in my case, my kids are the beneficiaries of each of their accounts. I am the beneficiary of my own account. The beneficiary can contribute themselves directly to their account. I save in my account, I save in my own name, I contribute it myself. Now again, the standard limit is $18,000 for 2024. So I can contribute up to $18,000 this year to my own CalABLE account. There are limited cases where you can contribute more than $18,000. If you're working and if your employer is not contributing to a retirement plan for you within that calendar year, then there's a calculation that you can go above that, and there's more information on our website. That's called Able to Work. But again, I can contribute myself up to $18,000 in this year. However, others can contribute to a CalABLE account as well, and it's very easy to do, which I'll get into that part in a bit. But any third party can contribute to someone's account. Friends, family, entities, random people off the street, doesn't matter who, anyone can contribute to a CalABLE account. If it's contributed directly to a CalABLE account, it's not counted as income. It's not considered an in-kind contribution, which is important when you're thinking about things like SSI eligibility. You don't want that to count as income. You don't want to count as a resource, which could also affect your benefits. And what is really great is that you can set up a gifting portal so people can contribute to you very easily. So For me, I have gifting pages set up for both of my sons. And it's really cool. It's really easy. It's a page that's unique to them. It has their name on it. It's their own web address. I can share that with friends and family. I can share that with grandma. I can guilt grandma and grandpa for not coming up to see them enough into putting money into their accounts to save for college, save for adulthood, save for emergencies, save for whatever. And on that note, we have a special promo going on right now. We really do want to encourage people to use the gifting platform um, because the goal is that CalABLE accounts can be used to support someone with a disability, and it can be used by others to help them with their expenses. And so between now and the end of the year, the first 200 account holders who receive a gift contribution we'll be adding an additional $25 on top of that gift. However much that gift is, as long as it's meets the minimum of $1, we will contribute on top of it. Because again, we really want to make sure that people are using the gifting platform, that people know they can give directly to an account holder without affecting their benefits and while supporting them. So again, you create the gifting page. There's more information on our website, but if you create the gifting page, very easy to do. Madeline put a link in the chat. Thank you, Madeline. Create the gift page. You publish it. You just email the link to everyone, and if they give you money, the first one who gives you money, we'll add an additional $25 to that to your balance beginning of next month. Okay. Now, very quickly, because I know at least some of the folks on the line are probably wondering how to use the account for savings. Great news. So we have 8 professionally managed portfolios that you can choose from. They have a range of offerings. I'll show them. I'll mention them briefly, but there's a range of options to choose from. And what's great about it, again, as I mentioned at the top, is that there's this potential for tax-free growth. So any earnings and interest that you collect within the account, that's all tax-free, which is a huge benefit. The account just has to be used for eligible expenses, which I'll get into in a bit, but it's very, very broad. So, with that in mind, you can save, you can invest in these different sources. What you earn is tax-free, and you can build a nest egg, build your wealth through compound earnings. That's my hope for my kids' accounts. That I can grow their earnings so that they have a nice nest egg when they're adults. And we have low fees of it's a low annual fee of $30 and a small percentage of fees based on the investment options that are selected. And there's more information on our website, but I will quickly, if you can go to the next slide, just very briefly mention that we have these 8 portfolios. It's a mix of options. So one is the FDIC insured cash portfolio, which operates like a savings account, and that one just collects a stable interest rate. And then we have 7 other portfolios that are tied to stocks, bonds, and market securities that you can take a look at, that you'd be able to select from, depending on what you're saving for and what your goals are. And more information is in a link in the chat. Okay, now one other poll we wanted to get to, Madeline, if you can introduce the poll.
Yes. So we are very curious, what are you saving for? So are you saving for a first home? Are you saving for an accessible vehicle? Maybe education expenses, technology or equipment? Maybe you're saving for a service dog or health and wellness, recreation and vacation, or other. We would love to know, especially, as we're going into 2025, you can start thinking about, what are you going to be saving for in the new year? And for those who are service providers or state employees who are on today, feel free to answer. You can let us know, what are a lot of your clients saving for, or what have you heard frequently? Okay, we'll give just a few more seconds. Okay, I'll go ahead and end this poll and share the results. And by the way, with this poll, you are able to select multiple options. So that's why the percentages don't exactly line up. But we have a lot of people saving for health and wellness today. We have 40% of people said health and wellness. Recreation and vacation is another big category here at 34%. The holidays are coming up. So, you can think about those travel expenses that you need when you're going to go visit family. Think about that. Technology or equipment, also another big category at 22%. I also see first home, 17%. So that's very exciting. First home, that is a huge expense. So if you are saving for that, I wish you luck and hope that you're able to get that first home. Education is at 15%. And then we also have some people saving for service dogs and accessible vehicles. And then a large amount of people are saving in that other category. So again, at the end of the webinar, you can let us know in that survey what you're saving for. We would love to know. This is a really fun question for us to hear about.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, so a lot of options to choose from. All of the options, it wasn't a trick question. All those options are things that are very likely to be eligible expenses with CalABLE account. So what can you spend the account on? Like I mentioned, you do have to spend it on qualified expenses, and that's how you make sure you can benefit from the tax-free earnings and income. Earnings and interest rather, not income. So what can you spend it on? A lot of things, basically. You can spend it on education, on vocational training, on housing, transportation, travel, food, vacation, any range of things. What is really important is the line at the top. Any expense that helps the account holder maintain or improve their health, independence, or quality of life. That's the standard. So it needs to be about the account holder. It needs to be for their benefit, and it needs to benefit either their health, independence, or quality of life. Madeline included a link in the chat with a bit more information, but that's the important thing to keep in mind. So for example, my kids they each have their own CalABLE account. And so if I were to use their CalABLE account to pay for something, I could, as long as it's for their benefit, as long as it's for their health, independence, or quality of life, I could do that. So I could pay for their education expenses using their account, but I couldn't pay for, something for me using their account. So again, health, independence, or quality of life, that's the thing to keep in mind. And it is purposefully very broad. It's designed to be very broad to allow for a lot of flexibility. Okay, and then so a bit of technical information that we want to make sure we touched on, since this is probably going to be a question for many of the people joining us today, is what happens with when the beneficiary dies. So some things to keep in mind. So funds from a CalABLE account can still be used for eligible expenses. If there was anything that was outstanding, it can still be used for that. It can be used for funeral or burial costs. Those things are allowable. So after the beneficiary dies, the account can still be used as long as it is still meeting those criteria. When we're notified about a beneficiary's death, we will request proof of death and documentation. Once we receive that, we will suspend account activity except the executor or the administrator of the estate can make withdrawals from the account. So again, the account gets logged down except for the executor or the administrator of the estate. There's a link here to the death of beneficiary form that you can use. That'll kind of walk you through a little bit more information. Something to keep in mind. A recommendation would be that we recommend that you connect with a tax advisor, legal advisor about any tax implications from any withdrawals or payments out of the estate or Medicaid or Medicare recapture. So we do recommend that. We do have a little more information on our website though. So on the subject of Medi-Cal, while we do recommend getting advice, there is some information that we can provide for you. CalABLE has protections in place for California residents against Medi-Cal recovery. What that means is in the vast majority of cases, funds in a CalABLE account are not subject to recovery from Medi-Cal. Now there are specific conditions that can apply. That's what you see here on the screen here. But it is a very limited case. So if all of the following apply, then there may be Medi-Cal recovery from the estate. So if the assets are transferred from a CalABLE account and the beneficiary was receiving Medi-Cal and was over the age of was 55 or older, if the estate is subject to formal probate, which means that it would be in excess, as of today, in excess of $184,500 in value, that the account holder received nursing facility services or home and community-based services, including hospital and prescription drug services. And if the member is not survived by a spouse or registered domestic partner or child under 21 years of age, or a child with a disability of any age. If all of those apply, then Medi-Cal recovery may occur. If any of those don't apply, then at least as of today, there would be no recovery from the account. So that's a lot of criteria. It's a lot of very specific criteria, as you could probably tell. So in most cases, this does not apply, but it can occur, and that's why we want to highlight that for everyone. Okay, and one more thing on this topic, you can designate a successor designated beneficiary for a CalABLE account. Now but there are some requirements. So this can only be for a sibling, step sibling, or half sibling of the beneficiary. They must have an ABLE account. They must open an ABLE account, which means they have to be eligible. They also have to be eligible for an ABLE account. The successor must be named before the death of the beneficiary. And you have to complete the form either in the portal, or you can use the form on our website, which you can see the link here. It does successor designated beneficiary is a very specific case in federal law, and that's why it's only for ABLE eligible siblings, step siblings, or half siblings. Okay, and so with that, let's have one more poll. So Madeline, if you want to take it away.
Yes, so I have gone ahead and launched that poll because we will be moving into our special needs trust portion. So we want to know, do you have a special needs trust? So yes, I'm planning to set one up. No, or this is not applicable to you, maybe because you're a service provider. Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm going to end that poll. So we have 40% of people already have a special needs trust. That is great. 25% said they're planning to set one up. So our guest presenter is going to be covering special needs trust. So hopefully that'll give you some information that you need to get that set up. 25% said no, and then 10% said not applicable. I'll turn things back over to you, Thomas, to introduce Margaret.
Sure, thank you. All right, thanks everyone for filling that out. We did want to get a better sense of who was joining us today. That's a very specific and particular topic. So with that in mind, we have an expert. Joining us today is Margaret Fulton. Margaret is an attorney practicing law in the areas of estate planning, trust, probate, and special needs planning. She is certified by the California State Bar as a specialist in estate planning, trust, and probate law. She received a BA from the University of California at Berkeley, a law degree from UC Law San Francisco, formerly Hastings College of the Law, and a Master of Laws in Taxation degree from McGeorge School of Law in Sacramento. She now practices law with the firm of Robinson and Fulton, a law corporation which is located in Auburn, California. For more information about her practice, see her website at www.fulton-law.com. With that, thank you, Margaret, for being here today, and feel free to take over.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very excited that 40% of you have special needs trust. I notice there's some more technical questions in the question and answer, and I'll try to get to them later. For those of you who want to know, I am a female estate planning attorney, and I'm in my office with a plant behind me, and I am old enough that my hair has turned gray. But anyway, that's who I am. I'm going to put some slides up. Here I am sharing the slides. Let's see. Madeline, can you tell if my slides are sharing?
Oh,
there.
They are popping up now. Great.
Okay, great. So the Special Needs Trust is a trust that can be funded with an unlimited amount of money for the benefit of somebody with special needs or disability, and it does not interfere with their eligibility for public benefits. Thomas went into detail about the ABLE account. I think that's more of a savings account. It would be added to from time to time, but the Special Needs Trust usually is funded. I noticed a lot of you are parents. It would be part of your estate plan, and if you wanted to leave money to your disabled child, the Special Needs Trust is a great vehicle. It can be held in a Special Needs Trust, and that is what you would want to do. So I'm going to go over quite a few different things about it. Let's see. So it does preserve eligibility for Medi-Cal. And the other pieces of it, which people don't really think about, but are so important, is it provides a management team for the beneficiary's finance. The trustee of the trust can be authorized to hire care providers. It can provide advocacy for the beneficiary. And my clients who have children with disabilities, their main fear is what is going to happen when I'm gone. And you can put together a support system, which is not going to replace you, of course, but you can feel more comfortable that there will be a trustee who will manage the money appropriately. And if there's enough money, is able to hire people to provide other assistance to the beneficiary. So we're looking at it for one, to keep their eligibility, and for number two, to provide some care for them. So a trust, a basic trust, has the grantor. That's the person who funds it. If it's you're the parent and you want to leave money to your child, it would come from you. The trustee is the person who manages the assets. That's one of the hardest things for people setting up a special needs trust, to figure out who is going to manage the assets for the rest of my child's life. And then the beneficiary is your child, somebody who receives the benefits. The beneficiary doesn't have to be a child. It can be set up for somebody else, but that's kind of the most common scenario. So who needs it? It's a person with disability who depends on needs-based public benefits. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that is. First of all, the rules about special needs trust are set up by federal Social Security law, and they have to meet a lot of requirements. So the person has to be disabled. You can, in your estate planning, you can set up trusts for all kinds of things. Suppose your child has a drug problem or something else. It would not be a special needs trust, although it might be similar. But for it to be actually a special needs trust, there has to be a disability involved. The person cannot engage in substantial gainful employment, and they need to remain eligible for public benefits. So just public benefits at a glance, and this is a very complicated subject, but means-based public benefits are SSI. Thomas talked about that. You cannot have more than $2,000 in the bank if you want to remain eligible for SSI. And why is that? Because SSI in California is, maybe around $1,000 a month. It's supposed to pay for all your needs. Well, we know that isn't true. So SSI, although it's not a lot of money, it's over the lifetime. So it's really important to preserve that benefit. A lot of people who are doing estate planning and have a child, perhaps with autism, perhaps something else, they're not sure how the child is going to be when they're an adult. Will they need to be on SSI? You can go ahead and get a trust, whether it's used or not can change over the years, but it's really, you're looking at SSI. Medi-Cal has changed a lot of rules, but there's still a special needs trust is really important to be able to qualify for Medi-Cal programs. In-home services that a lot of people use also would depend on being benefits eligible. Another type of benefits are entitlement public benefits. Those are benefits that people are entitled to because somebody worked. If you got disabled later, but you already had worked, you probably paid into the Social Security system, and you would probably be eligible for SSDI. So I always try to find out if somebody is only getting SSDI, they might not need a special needs trust, but often they may be getting both SSI and SSDI where they'll need it. If they're getting Medicare, we get that when we're older, but we also get that if we're on SSI. Again, there can be an overlap between Medicare and Medi-Cal, Medi-Medi, and so it could be both. Also, Section 8 has some eligibility requirements, as does CalFresh. So to preserve some of these benefits, that's why you would be getting the special needs trust. Okay, so there are different types of special needs trusts, and this is where it gets kind of confusing. The type that you will probably create to in your estate plan is going to be a third-party special needs trust. It's not created by the beneficiary. The money that will fund it does not belong to the beneficiary. It is going to be funded by their parents, their grandparents, their uncle, their aunt, anybody but the beneficiary. And it can be established by anybody but the beneficiary. And it on the death. So if you have 3 kids and you're debating how much money should I give my one child who has disabilities, but should I divide it 3 ways between my 3 kids? You can make the other kids the beneficiaries of the special needs trust when the person with a disability passes away. So it has really broad distribution on the death of the beneficiary. And Thomas has talked about ABLE is more narrow. The first party special needs trust is when the money belongs to the beneficiary. So how could that happen? A common way is there's a terrible traffic accident. The beneficiary is disabled. They sue the trucking company or whoever was responsible. They get a lot of money. Again, the beneficiary is disabled. They're going to need the public benefits. They need to put it in a trust. But the rules are that if it's the beneficiary's money, like the proceeds from a personal injury lawsuit, when the beneficiary dies, if they have received funds from Medi-Cal, that there's a payback. So you can say, this is going to go to my brothers and sisters, but in fact, your main beneficiary, depending how much you've used Medi-Cal, is going to be Medi-Cal for the first party. Then there's an option called the pool trust. This is something, a mechanism established by a nonprofit where you may not want to pay for getting a special needs trust for your child, but there will be some money. It might be a cheaper option. Also, it's available to people who are older than 65. The first party special needs trust cannot be used for somebody over the age of 65. So probably you won't get involved with the pool trust, but it is another option. And probably most of you who have special needs trust have third party trusts. It's only if there's sort of an unforeseen bona fide, money that comes into the disabled beneficiary's life. It can come through an auto accident, but another way it can come from is failed estate planning. Grandpa says, I give everything to my 3 children. If one of them dies before me, it goes to their children. Well, one of the grandchildren has disabilities. They need to be on SSI. If Grandpa failed to think about getting a special needs trust, then a first party trust can be established for that beneficiary. So the unintended inheritance will not disqualify them, but by that time, it's their money, and so Medi-Cal gets to be the first beneficiary of that trust. So we talked about injured persons can preserve litigation proceeds that way and used to hold an inheritance, but that means there has not been good planning that they ended up with an inheritance. So mainly those of you who probably already have special needs trusts have them because you've done your estate planning. So clients come to me, I'm an estate planning attorney. They say, well, I don't know about the special needs trust. I am going to leave it to their sister because I know that she really cares about them and she would take care of the person with the disability, and that's just going to be a lot cheaper. Well, that could be not a really good idea. The sister forgets to file her income taxes. She's subject to creditors. She dies, or she just has her own life, and in the end says, why should I take care of my disabled beneficiary? I have this money. Or she gets divorced and she has commingled the money with her spouse's assets, and so the spouse takes it away. So leaving it to other people is really not a very good idea. If you go to an attorney and say, I have somebody who's not unable to manage money, they may say, well, we can do a trust for them. I do a trust for people who have substance abuse or some other thing. But if it's doesn't follow the rules for special needs trust, it will be part of their available assets when they apply for public benefit. So that's not so good either. So when you sit down to do a special needs trust, there's a lot of decisions to be made. And I've had some parents who aren't able to make those decisions, so they do nothing, which is not very good. The first thing is who will be the trustee. often it's a sibling. You think of it that this is not going to be funded until the parents pass away. So your child may be obviously much younger than you. You have to have somebody in there for the rest of their life. What I try to do to get around that is give the trustee the ability to appoint successor trustees. You put in the siblings of the child, but if they're getting older, they can appoint other people. Another thing is a professional fiduciary or a bank. And if there's a lot of money involved, that's a good idea. The private fiduciary is not going to live forever either, but give them the ability to appoint. So if you have siblings who just say, I just don't want to be involved with this person's needs. I know they will need a lot of help and I just don't want to do it. A private fiduciary is an answer, or perhaps a bank. If there's more money, you can add people to the special needs trust. You can add a trust advisory committee or a trust protector. So if you did decide to go with the bank, you could get, I had a lady who had she had funds, and she had a niece who wanted to be involved, but she did not want to be the trustee. So the niece was put on a trust advisory committee, or as the trust protector. She could fire the bank if things weren't working out well. And financial institutions change. Perhaps they set it up with somebody that everyone really liked, but that person retired, or the bank wasn't really involved with special needs trust. So you can bring other family members into it who would keep watch over it, or some people have put their friends in the special needs community. They're very close to somebody else who has a child with disabilities, and they know that that person doesn't want to handle the money, but they would be willing to watch over the trustee and make sure everything was going well. So that's another way that it can be done. A special needs trust can pay for really just about anything. They can own houses. I think there's questions in the Q&A about owning a house. They can own a house. They can own a vehicle. They can pay for insurance. Maybe they don't want to own the vehicle. They can provide funds for a vehicle if it's used to transport the beneficiary. You may even put it in a caregiver's name, just in case there's an accident. The trust won't be responsible for any claims due to the accident. So people ask that a lot. Some people, I think there was a question in the Q&A, can I leave a house to the trust? You can. You just have to look at how much it's going to cost over the years to, if it's paid for, that's good. The other thing is just how much it's going to cost over the years to pay property tax, fire insurance, which has gone sky high. So it's quite flexible. There are just things that you have to watch out for. So one of the real limitations of the special needs trust, and where ABLE accounts help a lot, is that you cannot give cash to the beneficiary. So the beneficiary may be somebody who's severely disabled, is nonverbal. There's no way you'd be giving them cash. But on the other hand, it could be a beneficiary who would like some cash to go down to Starbucks to buy their own clothes instead of having the trustee buy the clothes for them out of the special needs trust. So I'll talk about this in a bit, but the special needs trustee, if the trust is drafted correctly, can transfer funds to the ABLE account, and then the beneficiary can use the ABLE account to buy things for themselves. So SSI, if you give the beneficiary cash, it will reduce the SSI benefit dollar for dollar. So the trustee needs to understand they cannot do it. And again, it used to be there were problems with food and shelter. The Social Security regs just changed. Food can be paid for out of a special needs trust or by anybody, and it doesn't reduce the benefits. I really haven't gotten too familiar with these new regs, but there is more flexibility in the shelter area. But again, we have used the ABLE account when the beneficiary wants to live on their own, But when shelter was prohibited distribution by a special needs trust, the money was put into the ABLE account, and then the rent on the apartment was paid for from the ABLE account. So that's why they really work well together. So now I'm going to compare them. Thomas has gone over ABLE accounts quite a bit, so I'm going to do that. I think I'm not sure, Thomas, when does it adjust to? I think it is 2026 that
Yeah.
the onset age is just to 46. This is such a blessing. So many times the disability has to do with mental illness, which did not, the onset of mental illness did not happen before age 26. And those people need a special needs trust because the person due to mental illness needs to be on special government benefits. But unfortunately, when you say, well, what documentation do you have that the onset was before age 26? They say, well, it just didn't happen at that time. We do everything to see if there was any accommodations in school or any other thing that we could hang our hat on. And that has been an issue. And thank goodness it's going to be changed, which is really good. Third-party special needs trust, anybody can be the beneficiary of it, as long as they have a disability. The ABLE account, anyone can fund it. And the third party, now I'm kind of getting away from first party because I don't think many of you are going to have that. There's no litigation, PI litigation, or hopefully no mistakes in estate plan that would call it first party. So the third party, anybody can create it except a person with a disability or fund it. Because if it's their money, it has to be a first party. You can have as many special needs trusts as anybody wants to set up for you. That would be a little confusing. It is a trust, and it has, unlike the ABLE account, it has to file income tax returns if the investments in the trust are producing income. So you don't want to have 5 or 6 trusts filing income tax return. So again, the person with the disability cannot control the third-party trust, and who inherits on the death of the person with disability. Thomas went over the ABLE situation. Again, the person, when I have parents drafting, I say, who do you want? The beneficiary can say, and sometimes we have involved a beneficiary. I've done special needs trusts for beneficiaries with children, and they've said, I want my children to inherit. But if you're doing a trust for little kids, at the beginning, you can say, well, it would be their siblings. The way I do special needs trusts gives some flexibility. My special needs trusts are revocable until they're funded. So if you come in, a husband and wife, or anybody with little kids, you don't know who to name as a trustee. You have to put in somebody. But if you want to change that before you die, just like a revocable living trust, you can change the trustee. You can also change, suppose the person with a disability did end up with children, you can change the beneficiaries of the trust. So, but however, I've also said that grandma can use your own trust. If you set up a trust for your kids, and grandma's going to have estate planning saying, if my son dies, I want it to go to his children, but you're the son and you have a child with a disability, grandma can name your special needs trust. Once it's funded by grandma, though, it would not be amendable. So that's kind of a complicated area. How much can be funded in a year? That's where I made the typo. I think next year it's going to be 2025. It's going to be 19,000. The annual gift exemption for funding ABLE accounts. Third party, you can put as much money as you want in there. Cap on the account. No, there's no cap on the third party S&T. Taxation. So investments in the special needs trust that kick off income, they will be paying income tax, and the trust brackets are compressed. They pay income tax at a higher rate. if the income is distributed to the special beneficiary, then it would not be paid by the trust. It's kind of a complicated tax situation. We said the limitations on distributions from SNT involve cash, and they may reduce SSI. But there are the new security rules that change the idea of food. So, some planning strategies, and I've kind of touched on those, but I noticed in some of the questions that came in before the seminar and some of the questions in the question and answer, is there any particular order that you should do your special needs trust or your ABLE account? No, you can do either one first or second or at the same time. It doesn't really matter. If you look at it more as the ABLE account being a savings account, obviously sooner the better. But when you do your estate planning and you're going to leave money to someone with disability, that's when you should be doing the special needs trust, even though it won't be funded till you die. None of us ever know when that could happen. So it's good to get that in place as soon as possible as well. So let's see, the funds. The ABLE account is just really good to give some cash to the beneficiary, some flexibility, and have a more independent life with the ability to use cash if they are in a position where they won't be taken advantage of, and they can spend some cash on things. So how do you find a special needs attorney? There is a group called the Academy of Special Needs Planners. It is online. There's the website, the link to the website, and you just, there's a tab that says find a planner. You can search by state and then by city to find somebody who does this kind of work. It is specialized. A regular estate planning attorney may not be familiar with this. And so it's good to go to somebody that's specialized in the area. So I would be happy to help anyone as well. And I think this pretty much concludes my presentation. We can move on to something else, Thomas, or question and answers.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, appreciate you walking us through all of that. At this point, Madeline, correct me if I'm getting this out of order. We were going to go through a bit of reminders before we do some on-air questions and answers. So first thing we'll start with is please open an account. Please open a CalABLE account. calable.ca.gov. That's where you can go to create an account. It's very easy. It takes 15 minutes. It's not terribly different from opening any other type of bank or credit union account. Very easy to do. Next thing we'll mention, I already mentioned this before, but $18,000 annual contribution limit. That is for this calendar year. That resets on January 1st. So if you haven't reached the $18,000 annual limit, and you're able to, we recommend getting those contributions in now, so you can start from so you can start over next year and have the full 19,000. So we recommend just getting those in now, and if you could use some help getting those contributions in, I will reiterate that we have our promo for our gifting portal. So if you receive a gift, or if the beneficiary receives a gift of even $1 and if they're one of the first 200 people, we will give them an additional $25. One more thing on the contribution limits. So again, next year it'll be $19,000. It'll go up. I mentioned before about able to work. That's if you're working and your employer does not contribute to a retirement plan. You can save an additional $15,060 next year on top of the 19,000. So just over 34,000 you can save if you qualify for able to work. And very quickly, to contact us, if you have questions, if you just want help opening an account, anything like that, you can contact us at 833 CalABLE. That is our customer service center. They are very helpful. They support dozens of languages. They will help you out. So feel free to give them a call. We also have our customer support page, www.sumday.com/customer-support/CalABLE. Again, that is our customer service website that you can go to send in inquiries. And you can also sign up for emails, newsletters, and information by scanning the QR code on the screen or just by going to our website. It's right at the top. You can sign up for more information. Okay, and then hopefully you guys are enjoying this webinar. Our next one is going to be on January 22nd. That's going to be a bit more CalABLE 101, just walking through some of the basics on CalABLE. So please join us then. You can there's a QR code to register for it. You can also go on our website and register there. And one last thing. We have I think it's the last thing. No, it's not quite the last thing, but it's close. We have a webinar survey. We really hope that people fill it out. This helps us understand who we're connecting with and make sure we're getting the right information out in these webinars. So please fill those out. One thing you can add in there, if there's any questions that we didn't get to, I know there's so many questions. I've been going as fast as I can through the Q&A, but if there's any questions we don't get to here in the Q&A or live, you can add that to the survey. We will take that back and we'll try to get you an answer. Okay, and now the actual last thing before we get to the Q&A, disclosures. Recommend taking a look at the disclosures here, but however, they are also provided on the slide, the link to the slides that Madeline provided earlier and on our website. This is the first page. We have a second page too, disclosures. But the one thing to point out is that that investments carry risk. And so that's something to consider when and using one of the investment options with CalABLE. So with that, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to go through some questions and answers. So Anne, if you can join us, I'm going to be in the chat trying to answer as many questions as I can before time runs out. So take it away, Anne.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ann Osborne, and I am a Caucasian female with brown hair and glasses. I'm wearing a green sweatshirt. But one thing before we start, Thomas, if we could just give everyone a reminder when the cutoff for the 2024 contribution status. I saw that pop up, and I thought it would be helpful if we just brought that up again for people. Do we have says checks must be received and be in good order by Tuesday, December 31st, 2024. Electronic contributions via linked bank accounts must be entered by 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Monday, December 30th, 2024. Just want to let everyone know that in case you want to get those contributions in before the end of the year. You can always call our call center at 833-225-2253. That's 833 CalABLE. Just wanted to remind everyone about that. So to the questions, this has been a common question throughout. Do you need a special needs trust in CalABLE? And I think we've answered the question, but maybe we just want to remind people why they should have both of them, or that it's not, just one or the other. A lot of them are a combination of both. Thomas, do you want to take that, or Margaret?
Well, I can say that you can have both. I recommend both because they have different purposes. The especially if you're looking to leave a disabled beneficiary money in your estate plan, that's going to exceed the contribution limits of an ABLE account, and the ABLE account is really not set up for lifetime management. So I would, if there is going to be money going to the disabled person, they should have a special needs trust to keep it in and maintain their eligibility for benefits.
Yeah, exactly. It's, there's as of this year, you can contribute up to $18,000 into a CalABLE account. And so depending on the state or whatever might be funding, the you wouldn't be able to go over that asset limit, over that annual limit, in a CalABLE account, but you can in a special needs trust. Another thing to keep in mind, which really kind of points to how well it can work together, is you could put more than that amount into the special needs trust, and you can have distributions out of the special needs trust. And those distributions, if they can go into an ABLE account, making sure that money is in the hands of the person with disability. It's in their name, they can use it, and they can still maintain their SSI in the process, right? So they can, it's a way to make sure they still have that protection in place, with payments coming in. So again, it does work well together.
It makes them more independent to have access to it, which is very frustrating in many cases where they can't even buy their own clothes. Somebody else has to do it for them. So,
And with a CalABLE account, you can get a debit card. So the beneficiary could just use it wherever you use wherever you'd use a Visa card. And so again, to your point, it allows them to be more independent, make those decisions on their own, while still making sure they're getting support from loved ones, through the trust. Yeah.
This was an interesting question. I don't know, Margaret, if there is anything out there. What is the exact language and info needed to be included if I want to leave my child's share of inheritance in my will and have it go straight to their CalABLE account?
uh, it really depends on how much money you're talking about. The annual limitation on how much can go in ABLE, I wouldn't recommend that if you have even double the 18,000, because it's just going to sit in your trust. You'll be deceased and nobody will have any benefit from it. It needs to be distributed out of your estate to a special needs trust if it's going to be over the minimum amount for ABLE.
Okay. And I think you answered this one earlier, but can I establish a special needs trust for myself before I receive my inheritance before my mom dies?
So this is a disabled person who wants to establish it for yourself.
Mhm.
Your mom has to fund it. She needs to say that it's going to the trust. You can work with your mom to establish it, but you can't get your personal hands on it. Mom's trust has to say it goes to Susie's Special Needs Trust when I die. But you can work with her on that. It's possible to create your own trust. That's been done more in first party trust where somebody, has received money they didn't intend to. They can create their own trust. More likely, the person who's leaving money to it would create it, but you can work together. You cannot be the trustee, though.
Great. If the person on the account dies, can the leftover money go to the beneficiary, or does the state take the leftover money? We've had a lot of questions about where the leftover money goes.
And that's for an ABLE account, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So again, you can have a successor designated beneficiary. If that person is a sibling, a step sibling, or half sibling, you can designate that person before the death. And sorry, if they're sibling, step sibling, or half sibling, and they are eligible for an ABLE account, that person can be designated before the death of the account owner. So it's a bit of a limited scenario. Otherwise, the funds in the ABLE account, they're handled kind of similarly to how funds in other accounts, like a bank account or something, would be handled. It would be included as part of their estate and would be distributed as part of that. And there may be some tax implications for that distribution. But again, it would be part of the estate, just like other financial accounts would be.
Okay. A lot of people are wondering if they can transfer funds from their special needs trust to CalABLE accounts. And they want to know if they do, how do they do that?
It would be pretty easy. The special needs trust, and there is another thing in the Q&A, how is it physically set up? The trustee will open an account at a bank, at a brokerage, anywhere, and they will write checks to pay for expenses. They could also make a contribution to an ABLE account in that way, or
Okay.
checks, or however you receive money, whatever form the receipt you want as ABLE people.
Oh, okay.
I
Oh,
don't know, how do you take contributions, I guess online or something?
okay. This was an interesting question. We had quite a few people asking if there was any disadvantage to having a special needs trust.
Well, the special needs trust, in the beginning, when kids are young, you don't know whether they'll ever need it, but it's funded when somebody dies. But if it got funded prematurely, most special needs trusts have sort of an escape hatch that if they're no longer needed to preserve eligibility for public benefits, it can go to the beneficiary. You have to be careful about that actually happening, but you can put that in there.
Okay. Third-party special needs trusts are taxed if investments are inside. How about if funded like a insurance account or a Roth IRA,
The special
like a
needs,
life insurance? Yeah.
they have nothing to do with IRAs. They're not an IRA. They are taxed as a trust. And so the trust income tax brackets are compressed. The income is taxed in a higher bracket. But like any trust, they can invest it in non-tax exempt or things that aren't taking up income. It's up to the trustee how they want to invest it. And they should be dealing with a tax advisor too.
I have a question from somebody who would like to know what they can't use their CalABLE accounts for and what they can't use their special needs trust for.
The special needs trust is really flexible as long as the beneficiary is eligible. You cannot use it to distribute cash. You should be careful about paying for housing to interfere with the SSI. And technically, you're not supposed to use it for stuff that would be paid for through Medi-Cal. But there's nobody really checking on that at all.
Yeah, and for CalABLE, again, it needs to be used for the benefit of the account owner, and needs to benefit their health, independence, or quality of life. And so as long as it's focused on that, there's not a whole lot that you couldn't use it for, as long as it's a.
But Thomas has a good point. You can't use it for the beneficiary's children or friends or some other thing. It must be used for the beneficiary.
That's really the most important thing to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, Margaret, what would be the cost for somebody setting up a special needs trust? I mean, I know there's a range. Is there just a range that you could
There's
possibly
a range, 1,500, 2,000 might be on the lower end. There's some attorneys who charge a lot more. It depends where the attorney's in San Francisco or, Auburn or someplace like that. There's a range, but they're not cheap. It's an investment to do that. But it should be done in conjunction with the estate planning too.
And Thomas, what would be the fee to set up a CalABLE account?
You need to put $25 into it. There's no fee to set it up. You just have to put $25 to fund it, and it is your $25. It will be in your account at that point. So we have annual fees. They're competitive, $30 annual fee, and then a percentage of a percentage, depending on investment options that are selected. But we are a state program. We are not trying to make money, so we're not trying to make a profit. So we keep those fees as low as we can.
Okay. Thomas, I know we're getting close to time and we have a ton of questions. I'm looking here to see. My spouse and I currently have a revocable trust. Would it be wise to have the beneficiary be my kid's special needs trust? It be my kids, I guess they are wanting to know if their kids should be in charge of their special needs trust.
They can't be, the beneficiary cannot be the trustee.
And I
Yeah.
think we were going to show our one last comparison chart with CalABLE and Special Needs Trust. So I think we are running out of time. So I just want to apologize to everyone that if we did not get to your question, please use the post-webinar survey and include your contact details, and we can get back to you.
So yeah, so on the screen here, you can see, I'll try to go very quickly through it, but you can see some of the differences for how they work. So very quickly, setting up CalABLE account, 20 minutes or less, should be less. As long as you have your information there, it's pretty quick to do. Special needs trust, generally, you're going to want to work with an attorney to set it up. Ownership and control for CalABLE, the person with disability is always the owner. However, someone can help manage and spend their money. For the trust, a trustee manages the trust and has the sole discretion over spending. For purchases, both of them are pretty broad, as long as they're benefiting the account owner. However, special needs trust is a little bit more limited for housing expenses, as Margaret had mentioned. Costs, well, we just went over that, but free for CalABLE to open up. For a trust, it can vary depending on what the support you're looking for from an attorney. Contribution limits for CalABLE, anyone can contribute, and you can contribute up to $18,000, at least as of this year, $19,000 next year. For a special needs trust, contributors are limited and may not include the beneficiary, depending on how it's set up, but there are no deposit limits. For Medi-Cal payback, Medi-Cal will not seek a recovery from a California resident with a CalABLE account, except in that very limited situation I mentioned earlier. For special needs trusts, only first-party trusts must pay back Medi-Cal. For investment options, both of them have different investment options. For CalABLE, we have 8 different options that the account owner or their representative can choose how to invest. For special needs trusts, those options vary depending on the arrangement, but there is still that opportunity to set up, and the trustee chooses how it works. And then for taxes, for CalABLE, as long as the account is only used for those qualified expenses, then any earnings and income are tax-free, and so are the withdrawals for those expenses. For special needs trust, earnings are taxed. Okay, and I think that is it. So I really appreciate everyone joining today. I know we didn't get to a lot of the questions. We had like 300 questions or something like that, and hundreds of participants. But really appreciate everyone being here. If you have any questions, please fill out the post-webinar survey and ask your question there. If you don't have questions, please fill out the post-webinar survey and just let us know how it went and if you have any suggestions. So again, thank you so much for being here today. Yeah, please open a CalABLE account. Please look into special needs trust and have a good day. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays to everybody.